Imagine an empire so vast that it seemed eternal, one that had ruled for 4 centuries, building roads, canals, armies, and peace. That empire was Han China. But by the 2nd century AD, the great Han dynasty was crumbling. Corruption, famine, and rebellion had weakened its heart. The emperor was a child, and real power lay in the hands of ambitious warlords. When the old order finally shattered, China descended into chaos. For 60 years, generals and kings fought for control, and more than 30 million people would die. This is the story of the War of the Three Kingdoms, a tale of ambition, betrayal, strategy, and blood. A war that turned China into a battlefield and produced some of the greatest heroes and villains in its history. By the late 100s AD, the Han dynasty was breaking apart. The emperor was weak, and court officials, the infamous eunuchs, ruled in his name. When famine and corruption spread, the people rose up in rebellion. In 184 AD, the Yellow Turban Rebellion erupted, a massive peasant revolt led by a Taoist cult calling for equality and the end of tyranny. Millions joined them, waving yellow banners across the countryside. The rebellion was eventually crushed, but the emperor's victory came at a cost. To fight it, he had relied on regional warlords, men who built private armies and refused to disband them afterward. When the dust settled, China was full of armies, and every commander dreamed of becoming the next emperor. Among them was one name that would soon dominate the land: Cao Cao. Cao Cao, brilliant, ruthless, and utterly pragmatic. He began as a minor official, but he understood one truth: power in chaos belongs to those who can control men. He built his army carefully, recruiting scholars and soldiers alike, not through loyalty to a dynasty, but through loyalty to him. When the young Emperor Xian became a puppet of rival warlords, Cao Cao seized an opportunity. He rescued the emperor, then ruled in his name. By 200 AD, Cao Cao controlled northern China. His capital, Xuchang, became the beating heart of a new regime, a place of order amid the ruins of empire. He declared, "I would rather betray the world than let the world betray me." It was a promise and a warning. But in the south, 2 other powers were rising. Together, they would challenge him and shape the era to come. To the west, a man named Liu Bei was gathering followers. He was of humble birth, a distant relative of the old Han royal line, and his dream was to restore the empire, not conquer it. Where Cao Cao ruled through fear and pragmatism, Liu Bei ruled through virtue and loyalty. He became a symbol of righteousness in a time of corruption. But Liu Bei had little power of his own. His early life was a series of retreats, defeats, and desperate alliances. Yet by his side were 2 of the most famous warriors in Chinese history: Guan Yu, the red-faced general with the long green dragon blade, and Zhang Fei, fierce, loyal, and reckless. Together, they swore an oath in the Peach Garden to live and die together for the Han. To the southeast, another contender was rising: Sun Quan, a young ruler who inherited the lands of his father and brother. The Sun family controlled the fertile, wealthy region of the Yangtze River, known as Wu. Sun Quan was a cautious, intelligent leader. He had a powerful navy and capable generals, especially one man who would soon become a legend: Zhou Yu. So by the early 200s, China was divided among 3 forces: Cao Cao in the north, Liu Bei in the west, and Sun Quan in the south. The stage was set for one of the greatest battles in Chinese history. In the winter of 208 AD, Cao Cao marched south with a massive army, over 200,000 men, determined to conquer the Yangtze and unite China under his rule. Sun Quan and Liu Bei, once rivals, realized they had no choice but to ally against him. Their combined forces numbered barely 50,000, outnumbered 4-1. Cao Cao's army was powerful on land, but weak at sea. He chained his ships together to steady them on the river. It was a clever move, until it wasn't. Zhou Yu, the commander of Sun Quan's navy, saw his chance. The winds were turning, and the northern soldiers, unused to ships and southern climate, were already suffering from disease. Then came a stroke of genius. A defector named Huang Gai pretended to surrender to Cao Cao. He sent a fleet of ships filled with oiled straw and pitch, fire ships. As the wind shifted, the flaming vessels crashed into Cao Cao's chained fleet. Within moments, the river became an inferno. The entire northern navy went up in flames. Cao Cao's army panicked, retreating through marshes and narrow roads, harassed all the way by southern forces. Thousands died in the chaos. The Battle of Red Cliffs became one of the most decisive victories in Chinese history. Cao Cao's dream of unifying China had burned with his ships. From that moment, the empire was truly divided into 3 kingdoms. After Red Cliffs, the balance of power was clear. Wei, under Cao Cao, ruled the north. Shu, under Liu Bei, held the west. Wu, under Sun Quan, controlled the south. Each claimed to be the true heir of the Han dynasty. Each built their own capitals, armies, and courts, and each prepared for the next round of war. Cao Cao continued to consolidate power, bringing stability to the north. He was both a warrior and a poet, ruthless yet visionary. But he never became emperor. When he died in 220 AD, his son Cao Pi seized the throne and formally ended the Han dynasty. He declared the new kingdom of Wei, the first of the 3 kingdoms. Liu Bei, after years of struggle, finally carved out his own realm in the mountainous west, modern Sichuan. There, he declared himself Emperor of Shu Han, claiming to continue the true Han legacy. His rule was marked by virtue and tragedy. When his sworn brother Guan Yu was captured and executed by Sun Quan's forces, Liu Bei launched a campaign of revenge and lost. He died heartbroken, leaving his state in the hands of his brilliant advisor, Zhuge Liang. In the south, Sun Quan built a strong, stable kingdom, rich in trade and protected by rivers and fleets. He ruled for decades, wisely balancing diplomacy and war. Unlike his rivals, he would die peacefully, a rare fate in this age. Few figures in Chinese history are as revered as Zhuge Liang, strategist, inventor, statesman, and legend. Serving Liu Bei and later his son, he became the mind behind Shu's survival. He is said to have invented early repeating crossbows, used psychological warfare, and mastered the art of deception. Zhuge Liang's dream was to reunite the empire, not for conquest, but for peace. He launched a series of northern campaigns against the powerful Wei kingdom. From 228 to 234 AD, he led 5 expeditions, winning battles, but never enough to secure total victory. During one campaign, facing overwhelming odds, he used his most famous tactic, the empty fort strategy. When enemy scouts approached his undefended city, Zhuge Liang calmly sat on the wall, playing a guqin, a Chinese zither. The enemy commander, fearing a trap, retreated without attacking. It's uncertain if the story is true, but it captures the brilliance and aura of Zhuge Liang, a man whose intellect alone could win battles. He died during his final campaign, and with him, Shu's hopes of uniting China began to fade. After Zhuge Liang's death, the balance began to crumble. Shu weakened first, its armies exhausted by endless wars. In 263 AD, Wei forces invaded Shu, capturing its capital, Chengdu. The Shu emperor surrendered. A few years later, the powerful Wei general Sima Zhao seized power himself. His family had long served the Wei rulers, but now they took control. Sima Zhao's son, Sima Yan, declared a new dynasty, the Jin. In 280 AD, Jin forces marched south and conquered Wu, ending nearly 60 years of division. For the first time since the fall of the Han, China was united again, but at an unimaginable cost. Historians estimate that during the long civil wars, over 30 million people may have died. From battle, famine, and chaos, entire provinces were emptied, cities vanished. The empire survived, but its people did not. The War of the Three Kingdoms wasn't just China's bloodiest civil war. It became one of the most influential stories in all of world history. Centuries later, poets and writers transformed these real events into legend. In the 14th century, the novelist Luo Guanzhong wrote The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, a blend of history and myth that immortalized heroes like Zhuge Liang, Guan Yu, and Liu Bei. The novel's themes, loyalty, strategy, betrayal, shaped Chinese culture for generations. Even today, it influences literature, film, and video games. The phrase divide and conquer and the idea of knowing yourself and knowing your enemy echo through the tactics of the Three Kingdoms era. And behind it all lies a timeless lesson. When ambition breaks unity, when loyalty turns to rivalry, even the greatest empires can collapse into ashes. From the chaos after the Han, three powers rose and fell. Each dreamed of restoring order, but all were consumed by the very war they fought. The War of the Three Kingdoms left a scar so deep that it shaped Chinese history for centuries. It was a time of heroes and tyrants, of brilliance and destruction, where loyalty could win glory one day and bring ruin the next. It is, in every sense, China's Iliad, a story of civilization tearing itself apart, and of the few who tried to hold it together. The empire, long divided, must unite. Long united, must divide. Thus, it has ever been. Those are the opening words of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and perhaps the truest words ever written about human history. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share to keep history alive. And tell me in the comments, which figure from the Three Kingdoms do you think deserves their own episode? Zhuge Liang, Guan Yu, Cao Cao? Until next time, thank you for watching.